back with our local Niagara expert, Kayla.
Everyone's kind of feeling, the crunch of everything being closed. I know we're working on a few projects right now that it's taking forever to, to get materials and whatnot, but I think the numbers are still there for everyone to do really well. And number of new listings that dropped pretty largely in terms of what we were seeing, March to April. And it's not like we're seeing less buyers right now than we had in March. So this is where, pricing again could become a little more competitive than what we saw last month. And also with the announcements of the stress test, that could also cause, a little more competition in the market. Interesting times because obviously we're reading different things everywhere, but as it stands, the market's still very, very strong.
What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here, and we're back with our local Niagara expert, Kayla. Hey, Kayla, how's it going?
Hey, Matt, it's going good. How are you?
Doing well. So I'm excited to jump in and just kind of hear what's going on in the Niagara market. 2021's been an interesting year for us real estate investors, and it looks like it's still shaping up to be a pretty interesting year. So before we jump into the presentation you put together for us, any top of mind updates or anything you want to mention to the audience?
Not anything like that's, too far above and beyond what's in the presentation, but just basically that, everyone's kind of feeling, the crunch of everything being closed. I know we're working on a few projects right now that it's taking forever to, to get materials and whatnot, but I think the numbers are still there for everyone to do really well. So that's, the good with the bad, I guess.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm excited to jump into your presentation, so I'm going to pull it up here. And what were we looking at for the month of April in Niagara?
All right. So this is the year over year. And we had spoken about this in the last presentation for March. You're still seeing in April some serious COVID lockdown implications on the numbers. So you'll see massive increases across the boards in new listings and number of sales. So we were still in lockdown here. It was still very new, and everyone was kind of had, halted on real estate just in general at the time. So you'll see 2020 new listings 594 across the region, 2021 1329. And then 2020 number of sales, 276, and number of sales in 2021, 1,082. So massive difference. This data is tough to even try and, break down because it's such a different time, even though we were in lockdown in April. It was a very different kind of lockdown this year than it was last year. I think people are a little more comfortable with what that means now. But to that, the benchmark price, so you can see a drastic increase across the board in every city. And again, this does play into the COVID thing on how many houses were bought, what types of houses were being sold, but there was still a massive increase in price year over year. And then, of course, average days on market has, halved even more so then because of the climate with COVID. But if we go month to month, that might paint up, a more clear picture of what's going on. So number of new listings has actually dropped. So we saw a slight shift in the market. Everyone was talking about it, that, it wasn't a guaranteed thing that if you put your house up, it was going to sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars over asking. Because there were more new listings, which set a better climate for buyers. But now in April, we are back down a bit. And this could, again, have a bit to do with, the kids being back out of school. And at home, it's a little harder to sell your house. There's a few different things that I've been hearing from my sellers as to why they're putting it off. But again, number of sales, however, has increased by 1. And then there was a slight increase in the prices across the board. Niagara on the Lake, interestingly enough, was in the millions on both months. So, we're seeing high numbers there. We've talked about that before and the reasons behind it, but and then everywhere else is also, still seeing slight increases, and I don't think there was anyone left behind there, so that's positive. One of the interesting things is the cheaper markets, as we called them, the Fort Erie's, Welland. You can see we're now hitting 509 in Fort Erie. We're hitting 528 in Welland. So they're not too far off the rest of them now, which is interesting because previously that's where people went, and even Port Colborne as well. You're at 517. So just something interesting to point out there. And then days on market, again, that pretty much stayed the same. And this is average. The medians kind of paints a better picture, which is slightly lower than the average. Gotcha. And then, yeah, any questions about that, Matt?
No, I was just going to say I really appreciate you breaking down the data every month like this, just because especially going month over month here is so much more valuable than looking at the year over year, just because of, like you mentioned, the unique situations. But it definitely seems like all the prices and the relatively aggressive market, that trend's continuing into April, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen any sort of slowdown in terms of pricing. And again, with more listings, there's been a little less competition on each listing, but it's still, people are still willing to pay top dollar for these houses. And if I just move here, so this is just a different way to display the data, but this is where you're seeing those COVID, what happened because of COVID. And again, not much you can do with this data just because of the climate that was taking place, but 292% increase in listings year over year, 40% increase in price, and then average days on market obviously has gone way down, and then number of new listings has also gone up, but to the month over month. So a very, obviously been a very slight shift in number of sales. Still an increase, like that's a pretty healthy increase month over month. And then average days on market, of course, that did drop, and number of new listings that dropped pretty largely in terms of what we were seeing, March to April. And it's not like we're seeing less buyers right now than we had in March. So this is where, pricing again could become a little more competitive than what we saw last month. And also with the announcements of the stress test, that could also cause, a little more competition in the market. So it's, interesting times because obviously we're reading different things everywhere. But as it stands, the market's still very, very strong.
Yeah, and just kind of like looking at this data, obviously we're not accumulating a lot of properties right now in the market simply because we're still, our number of new listings like dropped this month. So like we still have a slight increase of like 300 new listings from our number of sales, but like to see that trend down, if that continues, will definitely put some real pressure.
Yeah, if it continues the way it is, we could be back, obviously it's speculation, but like December, January. Ideally, maybe we stick here for buyers' purposes.
Accumulate some inventory would be nice, just to give people some options and maybe catch their breath at least.
Absolutely. So I mean, I've showed this the last few, but I thought this one was super interesting. Again, mostly just for the year over year here. This one and this one being the most interesting. So showings year over year up 762%. And then offers are up 1,600%. So it's just been a huge shift, April 2021 versus April 2020, despite still being in a pretty strict lockdown that we're in. Yeah. It's just, it's good to see that people are feeling a little more comfortable with going out and looking at houses and whatnot. And then it does go month over month as well. And we're seeing just exactly what we just talked about, that there was a decrease in listings, a decrease in solds, and then interestingly enough, also the decrease in showing. So just wanted to show that because it does, provides kind of a stark contrast of what was going on year over year. And then if we move on to here. Okay, so this came up today.
Oh, nice. Real, like right on the nose. Yeah,
so we've seen this in the Toronto market here and there, the $1. Less so out this way. this would be more for, there is a house on this property, but the real sell obviously is where it's located.
Gotcha.
For your builders, your flippers, your developers, whoever, the house does seem to be viable, but really this is 1 acre of waterfront property, private beach. There's you can see the updates. There was just 150,000 spent on a retaining wall. There is a house there currently, little smaller than the surrounding ones because the surrounding ones are massive. But depending on what happens with this $1, obviously they're holding offers. But the potential to make money here is huge because there are houses in that area that, and he has it in here, that sell upwards of $5 million. So yeah, and again, very different than what I've kind of shown before. And this wasn't what I had in here, but when I was going through, the listings today, I was like, okay, this is unique, first of all, so very interesting to kind of show. But also depending on how this plays out, because this isn't really something we've seen here before, it could be an opportunity for someone to, either 1, build the house of their dreams, or 2, make a lot of money. And you can kind of see the value in the land just by the taxes. These taxes are pretty high for the Niagara region. So just thought that was interesting. Offers are at 1 p.m. on May 29th, if anyone is interested. But
interesting. Yeah, appreciate you bringing a unique opportunity. Again, it's sometimes fun just to see, like, if nothing else, it's obvious that the realtor that posted this must be relatively bullish on the market, because I don't think you would approach it this way otherwise.
Of course, yeah. And I think, like, this is going to sell for obviously quite a bit, just given where it is and what it is. But regardless of that, if the comps in the area are in the multi-millions, you're set up pretty good no matter what you do. And you have an acre to work with, which is almost unheard of for lakefront. So just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, that 1, this is happening and moving down the highway, and 2, again, gorgeous location. So that is 1. And then, so that's current. And I wanted to show one that actually just sold. So this is very recent, in the last few weeks. This is a nice area for anyone that's familiar with St. Catharines. Secord Woods is one of the more sought after areas, and it has everything there: grocery stores, pharmacies, etc. This is a 1,400 square foot house for $320, which in Niagara region is just, that's almost nothing in comparison to what you can get in that area. It does have 2 kitchens right now. It's not set up as a legal duplex. Regardless of what route you wanted to go with this, you could flip it, you could burr it, there's so many options. Right now, there are tenants in there, but I just wanted to bring this to everyone's attention that, like, this sold under asking. And I mean, for that space, 2 bed, 2 bath, it does need to be renovated, but you already have, like, for the 2 bathrooms, you already have all your plumbing there, everything. So the rental becomes a lot easier, and you have 2 kitchens as well. So wanted to show that these deals still exist. That's kind of why, part of why we're doing this. So just a great area. Your comps, like, for this size of house, the comps in the area are very strong. So yeah,
and
that's,
Kayla, does it say there how many days on market, or was this one where they, like, held back offers and would have accepted a cash offer, or any idea?
Yeah, so it wasn't up for that long. I want to say it was a week. The client one doesn't show that for whatever reason, but it wasn't up too long, but it was up long enough that if you were like, it wasn't like it was gone in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Because just, again, like, I know for some viewers, if they're viewing from different markets, some are still like, literally, you got to be that day. So yeah, it seems like that's a great opportunity in Niagara.
Yeah, and the lot was a decent size as well, so there was a lot working for it. And then if we move on, I always like to do what's happening in Niagara, because it's one of the more common questions that I get when I do talk to investors. So you can see this is from April 6th, so recent. And it's just speaking to a bunch of big companies that have moved into the Niagara region or are expanding in the Niagara region. So the reason why I wanted to pull this up, so this Abatement Technologies, so they What they do is they create HEPA filtration systems for, which again, obviously is being used with the COVID-19 efforts. And we know that that's here to stay now. Not necessarily the COVID, but the you know, the different things that they're going to be using to make sure that it doesn't spread, et cetera. So they're about to break ground on a new 100,000 square foot manufacturing space in Fort Erie. So not to mention, I mean, the space looks like it's going to be beautiful, but also the jobs that it's going to, you know, bring to the region, and this will serve as its new head office. And they have 10 other international locations, so it's a big company.
Yeah, just as a side note, especially for Fort Erie, right? That has to be a big win.
So huge for Fort Erie. And then these other ones are just basically other companies. So Tora is going to be using 60,000 square feet in a sprawling facility, so that their thinking is going to be fully occupied within 10 years. And then this biotech company, which is located in Thorold, walking distance of Brock, is preparing a 50,000 square foot expansion. And it's again related to COVID-19, and then for the manufacturing of you know, the different materials that are related to that company. But that's a lot of jobs over the next 10, 15 years, depending. And it just shows that these companies, you know, are willing to invest here, build here, expand here. And it's because they are getting priced out of obviously larger areas. And I didn't post the whole article here, but they speak about how, you know, the Niagara region's like basically a neighborhood of Buffalo, because you can get to Buffalo so many different ways from here. And for these types of companies that will be transporting to the States, that's huge because you're right there. So yeah, I just wanted to show everyone this again, because one of the questions I get is, you know, what's happening there? Are people investing there, and what do people do? So a really good indicator of, you know, big companies coming here that are planning to stay. So yeah, just good news for the region for sure.
Yeah, always appreciate the updates. And so
yeah,
I guess otherwise, Kayla, love to hear just everything's going well in your rental portfolio. I feel like we maybe didn't chat about that last month. So
we're working on 2 burrs right now. A little slower, like I was saying, just based off of materials and things being closed. And yeah, so that's been, I mean, I think every investor is probably feeling that frustration if they're working on renovations right now. But we should be finishing up one in the Niagara region, in Niagara Falls, hopefully mid next month. And that's looking to be a perfect burr and then some.
Awesome.
Yeah, and then we'll be, we are slowly working on one in Thorold. It's kind of, we're doing the demo right now. That'll be turning into a legal duplex, which if things stay the way they are, will also be a perfect burr. So exciting stuff. And these are still cash flowing properties, and these were both bought on market, one really like recently. So yeah, no, we're, working hard over here, but it's just a bit slower because of what's going on. But I'm hoping as things start to open up, it'll speed right along.
That's awesome. More than a perfect burr. That's great to hear.
Yeah. The market helped that one because we bought it in November. But the other one in Thorold we just bought 2 months ago. So definitely still some opportunity out there. And that was one that sat for a few days as well.
And then, so as far as demand for rental units and stuff, anecdotally speaking from your portfolio and your clients' portfolios, demand still high in the Niagara region?
Yeah, so I can actually give you an example because I just listed one, I think 2 days ago. So it's a 2-bed, 1-bath, pretty good area in St. Catharines, like close to downtown, and they have full access to the basement. It's listed for $1,800 plus utilities, and we've had a lot of interest so far.
That's great to hear. Yeah, always love kind of checking in, hearing, both, reading the facts as well as hearing anecdotally, because sometimes those, the vacancy rates, we kind of have to wait quite a turnaround time to actually hear what's going on. So it's always great to hear kind of the boots on the ground experience.
I just wanted to point something out for current Airbnb owners and 2B owners. Last year in the Niagara region, a lot of the beaches were Niagara resident only to get in. They actually had security guards checking licenses to make sure that you lived in the area. Most have changed it this year. So for an example, St. Catharines beaches, you will be allowed, if you are from out of town, you will just have to pay for parking, whereas Niagara residents do not have to pay for parking. So just wanted to point that out, because I know some of the people that I've assisted with Airbnbs, they were a little apprehensive last year because of that, because they're obviously, if you have people coming from out of town, they want to use the beaches. This year they will be able to. So I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out to everyone, and that's just, there's the link to the article below. And then last but not least, I did mention this last month, but I've had so many people message me about it, so I wanted to bring it up again. And I'm just gonna get out of this and open it up. So I set it up before just so it actually worked this time. And then I just wanted to point out to everyone, so right now what's labeled is your beaches are these guys, schools are the flags, fire station is the F. These dots are budget lines in for the region, so this is where they'll be spending their money on different projects. And then for anyone that pays attention to road work, that the lines on the roads, that's what's being done.
This is amazing. Like, that just blows my, I can't imagine a city actually being able to pull this off.
Honestly, no clue how, and it's been like everyone's favorite thing since. So again, I just wanted to bring it off. I might make it a feature on our on our monthly, just so if someone comes in late, they can see it. And again, like I said, I used it just the other day for something as simple as insurance, because I needed to measure my house to a fire station, and it tells you like the exact. So just wanted to share that again, because I think it's a great resource for everyone. And then on the Airbnb side of things, I did mention this last time, so you'll see your beaches, but you'll also, the grapes are the wineries. So if you're looking to capitalize close to the wineries, that's what you're seeing there. So just a super great resource. And then with the capital, like with the budget lines, you can actually click into them and see what it is. Just endless amounts of information in here. So I would recommend anyone that's, curious to the region and what's here, you can see all the different things on the side that you can get into.
Awesome. Yeah, I can't believe how thorough this is. This is just absolutely amazing for investors.
Yeah, everyone has messaged me and been like, why hasn't my city done that? And I was like, I was shocked that we have this as a resource, because I'm not, like, being from Hamilton, I don't think they have it. So yeah, it's definitely a wonderful resource.
Appreciate you, Kayla, filling us in on what's going on in the Niagara region. For anyone that's watching at home, if you guys want to get in contact with Kayla, if you're thinking about investing in the Niagara region, we've got a link to all of our contact information in the video description down below. Really encourage you guys to reach out. Again, it's so important that you've got a local expert that you can trust, that also actually walks the walk, right? So often I see people using their sister-in-law or brother-in-law, as their realtor, and that's great. Maybe you even save a little on commission, but if they don't work with investors, you're actually really stacking the deck against yourself. So just wanted to kind of mention that, because again, in these markets where it's so dynamic, where if your realtor isn't checking the data on a regular basis, you're going to miss out on some of these trends. And when the market catches its breath, if you've been waiting to jump in, that may be the perfect time. But again, if they're not dialed into the data, you won't know about it in time. So really appreciate you, Kayla, and looking forward to chatting next month.